Stephanie today. So good times had by all. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Here we is.
Yeah, they opened the door for us. We're allowed to waddle in. At least in my case, you're a svelte man. I'm a gentleman of a lot of calories. So
That's
I'd
good,
move
football
sideways.
Analogies.
Yeah,
you hit them low, I'll hit them high, and
it's strong.
Knock them out for a loss of yards.
Absolutely. News that we're still waiting on. We thought yesterday that Anthem and Mizzou would come to some sort of agreement. No, not yet.
We are standing by when you use football analogies, because I think the line that the Senate president used was touchdown on her Facebook
and
page.
Cindy O'Loughlin, I don't know her all that well, but the one thing I can say about Cindy O'Loughlin, she does not seem like a woman. The senator does not seem like a woman of hyperbole.
No, she is no shrinking violet at the Capitol by any means.
So I am guessing that there was some sort of a weird kink on finalizing the deal yesterday. Hopefully they have that done, and we're done with this Missouri-based nightmare, realizing that every county in the state of Missouri sends people to Mizzou's hospital. MU is a tremendous hospital. There's tremendous hospitals throughout the state of Missouri, and this Anthem deal has just been waiting to get done. So hopefully this is over with. But again, I really think the one thing that we have to have a real discussion about, John Marsh. By the way, I'm Peter Thiel. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri right here on your friendly neighborhood Zimmer Communications radio stations. The one thing I don't quite understand is that we as our government has allowed this. We've allowed these insurance companies, like many businesses, to merger. Now there's really so few choices that so many people are on Anthem. I know I was given the option of staying with Anthem or go to somewhere else. I went the other place. I went to Cigna.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a big part of it is our state government workers in Missouri, not just in central Missouri, but presumably those folks who work in the Springfield area. A lot of them are on Anthem as well. Fortunately, Cox and Mercy in Springfield came to terms with Anthem a number of months ago, so they're all good from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's but again, some of the services that are available at MU, it's just they have unique facilities for the state of Missouri. So very, very important that this gets done, and I don't understand why it took so long. A lot of times you just get people in the room together with somebody who is a negotiator or someone who can be that impartial observer just trying to get stuff done. Have you ever gone through, been involved with an intervention, John?
Been involved from the fringes with intervention. How's that sound?
Yeah, it's good. So an intervention for somebody who has a drug or alcohol problem. If you've not been involved with it, this is how it goes. All the family members and close friends are in a room. This person's tricked to go into a room. There's a counselor there who goes through an exercise where everyone talks about their family member or friend, how their substance abuse hurts them and hurts everyone around them. A lot of times for people who have substance abuse issues, they do not understand how it impacts those around them. And if the person agrees, they go off to treatment. And if they get the proper support, they remain sober forever. Well, this type of thing seemed like it was, and I don't know who to define, whether it's Anthem or MU, were like that alcoholic cousin who's being confronted by everybody and for whatever reason just can't get it done, and they're going to sit there and argue as long as it takes for this
and
thing
then get up and just leave the intervention, never to be seen again, right?
By the way, I know somebody who had an intervention for for a sibling, and the sibling got up and walked out in the middle of it with the parents, with the sibling spouse, the whole bit.
That is the way, unfortunately, those often go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and again, it's but this really seems to be they have their arguments so in place. Here's what and again, you and I don't know what's going on with the MU anthem thing, with the negotiations. John Marsh, you're a man of breeding and understanding of how these things works. I've been around these things. I've watched them work before and how this works out. But sometimes people get into a certain argument and they can't get out of it. Sometimes that'll happen.
Hill to die on.
Yeah, it's and that sometimes maybe in a marriage or between family members who are just not speaking over something. And this is not an unusual thing. Where the difference is minute, just get it done and move along, call each other winners, and just walk away. And that's where I wish this thing would be. And I just don't know the answer to that.
Well, the rumblings sound like it's moving in that direction. And we've seen these so many times and time again. It's not Anthem. I mean, it's medical facilities, not just in Missouri, but nationwide, that come to a loss, I guess, with their health insurance providers, like we saw in Springfield. And after months of negotiations, they come to terms, and it's kind of back to square one. People go back to their family doc, back to their specialist,
Yes.
and hopefully get the care that they need.
Yeah, and my other thing having to do with this, just getting it done and getting over, is that there are people who have, they may have a child, they may have a parent that is needing services at MU because of a catastrophic illness of sorts. And if all of a sudden they're out of network, that's ugly. Now, I do have this question, and I don't know if you can answer it, John Marsh. If all of a sudden this gets signed, sealed, and delivered sometime this week between MU and Anthem, if you were in MU during this period where, quote unquote, it was out of market or out of network, will all of a sudden will your bills be decreased, or are you just stuck with that being out of network at that time?
Boy, that's a good question. I would have no actual idea, but you would think, knowing nothing against the health insurance marketplace out there, but boy, trying to even when you are in network and you have a question about a bill and trying to get that down to something that you initially thought was going to be the billing can be a real uphill battle.
Yeah, and it's a real big thing. And again, I look at insurance. Health insurance gets a lot of stuff just mainly because any type of medical procedure is so doggone expensive. It's an expensive deal all the way around. But I look at my homeowner's insurance. I look at my car insurance, which has gone up dramatically. I have not had a claim in a decade. I had a small fender bender like 10 years ago. And that's the last time. And I mean, when I mean small, it was small. And I got a new car, and my insurance rates went up by a third.
Oh, I'm sure.
And which I don't quite understand. I'm a perfectly safe driver, no tickets, no accidents, no nothing.
Kind of outside of the demographic of high risk.
Yeah, I'm no longer 25.
Exactly.
I don't drive a sports car. Again, I don't understand the whole insurance thing and how that breaks out. It's a state regulated item. And I know in Missouri we have such a huge problem with people driving without insurance.
Oh, that's a chronic issue.
And which really hits my rates, hits everybody's rates because of how many people are uninsured on the road. And the deal is that if you're on the road and you don't have insurance, there's a helpful hint here I want to bring up, is that you get into an accident, everyone you hit is the ones that will be paying for your car, their car, and their rates will be going up because of your ridiculousness. Period.
Called uninsured motorist coverage.
Yeah, I mean it's just absolutely nuts. So I don't understand the whole insurance deal, the actuaries and all that stuff. I think that we have to have a real discussion about how we've allowed these companies to merge. I look at all the mergers that we've had in banking and in health insurance and a variety of things that we need. And I look at it as something that does not help the consumer, where there is really no competition between the different entities of the industry. It's so consolidated. And that's my issue. You're listening to a Wake Up Missouri. It's John Marsh and Peter Thiel. Coming up at 11:24, our man, John Marsh, has your D.C. rundown. He's your Stephanie Bell for the day. Not quite as pretty. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
A couple of notes here as we're going through and we're watching this, and I want to get to this here at about 6:36 this morning. Supreme Court, by the way, is allowing mass firing at the Department of Education, and that was a 6-3 ruling, came out late yesterday. It's absolutely fantastic news. Now, of course, President Trump needs to get these Republicans in line to pass a law that closes down the Department of Education formally, because it has to be done by December, because next year is election season. And there's enough of these Republicans who are squishes that will go out of their way not to do anything controversial and show they're independent by not supporting President Trump on something. Now, we're in great shape in Missouri. All of our people are not, I don't think we have one squish Republican that will, who will all of a sudden get worried about stuff. But there are those people around the country. And of course, in the U.S. Senate, they've got Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Susan Collins from Maine. And then there's Tom Tillis from North Carolina. All three of those senators they don't necessarily have a problem voting against something Donald Trump is trying to push, but getting rid of the Department of Education is one of the best things that could ever happen all the way around. So
now we're seeing the latest lawsuit from 24, 25 Democratic states trying to go after that withheld $6 billion in education funding. So we'll see how that throws into the mix.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here, but Donald Trump must move very fast this year, get as much done as humanly possible. Number one, because it's reshaping the economy. The economy we're not in a recession, but we're not chugging along. And if
the left would like us to be in one.
Yes, but we're not. And if all of a sudden we as a country really begin to cook middle of next year, July, August of 2026, Trump has an excellent opportunity. The Republicans have a wonderful opportunity to save the House and save the Senate. Now, history tells us that that the Republicans, when they have the presidency, the Democrats will pick up seats. During a midterm, same thing happens when a Democrat's in office. That normally is what happens. A couple of things for us to note as we're going and we're looking at this. President Trump has to get this done and has to get it done now, N-O-W. And being able to get rid of the Department of Education, being able to make some of these big cuts, huge, huge deal. We'll talk more about this at 6:36. It is Wake Up Missouri. John Marsh, Peter Thiel, in for Stephanie Bell and Randy Tobler. Good morning.
I think just local news is
Up, Missouri? John Marsh is here. My name is Peter Thiel, and we're in for Stephanie and Randy, who will be back tomorrow. So yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that 6-3 vote that Congress or that the Department of Education can begin laying off people, which is awesome. I went through the look here, John, and I can only find, I hit up the old Chat GPT, and I asked this little prompt: name federal programs that have ended in the last 50 years in the USA. Now, we've had different programs get replaced by others, so the program really never dies. It just gets it just gets a new name after people realize it's a stupid idea. Then they rename it, and it keeps going. The only one that I have found on this list from ChatGPT was a program that ended in the 1970s. In fact, exactly 51 years ago, the Model Cities program. And urban renewal, social services support in distressed cities. The reason it was considered bureaucratic and ineffective, like most of our federal government programs.
Yeah, and urban renewal, when it came through largely in the 1960s, did a deal on a lot of inner city areas, and not just in major metros, but even smaller towns. And then it kind of went away.
Yeah, well, a lot of these programs, you have to go through, and there has to be sort of a line for efficiency. If you're a business owner, if you have too many employees to the income that you have, well, probably an employee's going to be going away. It's probably nothing any business ever wants to do. Or if you have more business than you can handle, where you're hiring people. That's how it works. That's how it grabs in. When there's an ineffective federal or state program, a lot of times those people just get shuffled around. At the federal government, there's no question how bloated it is. It's no question how over the top it is. Department of Education. And for those who say, well, we need this and how important it is, here is why this is not necessarily an important thing. The education is primarily funded by local and state taxes. What the federal government gives is very little. But with anything else, any funding that comes from the federal government, it comes with strings attached. And sometimes those strings attached are not necessarily applicable for every situation in every community. We also have a real problem in this country of where our education system keeps getting further and further behind. Shouldn't be the case at all. Our kids are wonderful. They're smart. There's something wrong in our education system. One of the other things that has been brought up, and I think it's something that should be talked about every one of the colleges in Missouri, is this. I bet you the numbers of international students at Harvard, Missouri State, and I bet you Mizzou have similar numbers, where it's in the 20% to 30% of all students are from international countries. They're not Americans. Well, the problem with that is that in many ways we're educating our geopolitical enemies. There's a lot of students that come over from China, for instance. Not that I'm against anybody who's Chinese or anything like this, but they're taking our data and they're bringing it back to their government and their stuff. And a lot of times that keeps American kids from getting into those universities. These students get visas, student visas. It is something that's granted by the U.S. government. Am I against international students being at our universities? No, I'm not. But
There's about 30,000 of them at Mizzou, I think, at last check.
Wow, see, that's a big number. And so when you're dealing with that many international students, it can become really difficult. I was hosting, by the way, on KWTO, our Springfield affiliate, yesterday. I was hosting the Elijah Harr Show. And one of the things that it brought up, anyone who's been trying to get into like med school or anything like that, to get into med school, sometimes it becomes very, very difficult. I have a friend of the family. She only wanted to be a doctor, did her pre-med program, was not accepted to any law school. And the counselor said, well, perhaps you need to get your master's. So this person went off and got her master's at an Ivy League school. So we're not talking about a dummy here. Gets the master's, then gets accepted to medical school. When you have so many students who are international that are going into it, a lot of times these schools are accepting them, these international students, because they pay full freight. And their government or their family members who send them to the U.S. are paying full price. And it's a business end for our colleges.
And then there are the worries about some of those people doing inappropriate or even illegal things while they're here, up to and including spying on the U.S.
Correct. And one of the great concerns is we keep hearing this over and over again about students that come from China, and some of them stay in the U.S. And most of the people that stay in the U.S., by the way, are fantastic people. They go and they grow a career. But every once in a while, there's somebody who is a Chinese national that's a permanent resident and may even become a citizen in the United States. And they are all of a sudden spying. There was a big case, probably a decade ago at Los Alamos. There's been a number of these cases over the years. This is Wake Up Missouri. It's John Marsh. My name is Peter Thiel. We're in for Stephanie and Randy today, right here on the whole Love Network, a Zimmer Radio Network, and Wake Up Missouri, and just so thrilled to be there. So our government is bloated. There's no question about it. What do you cut? What do you go in and you get rid of? I hate the idea of anyone losing their job. I hate that idea. I do know there are people that lose their jobs in different careers that move into other things and sometimes have their most productive years after that. They start a business. They come up with an entrepreneurial idea. They go into a different way to go out and use their skills. And a lot of times these people are happier. The advantage of working for the federal government or the state government, quite frankly, is the benefits, health benefits and retirement benefits.
Lots of days off.
Yeah, lots of days off. And a lot of these jobs don't pay quite as well as private jobs doing the same thing in the private sector. But all the bennies are a whole head of the deal. We all know people who have worked this government job and they hate it, but they go, well, I have 3 years till retirement.
Exactly.
I'm going to put up with this 3 years.
Well, especially when you talk about on Capitol Hill, where people, even with like with USAID closing down and people jumping to other agencies and all, the career bureaucrat.
Yes. And our bureaucracy has become so bloated. And this is not even a Republican or Democrat thing. We've allowed the bureaucracy to dictate policy and to dictate regulations over the years. And that's highly problematic because that should only be coming from Congress through the President of the United States. There are executive orders that any president has to do, and I'm not necessarily a huge executive orders guy, but every president does it, and they always do a lot of them.
Oh, you talk about the bureaucracy and all. Look at the IRS over the years.
Yes.
We get Billy Long in there now, but boy, oh boy. I mean, you talk about bureaucrats making policy without input from Congress.
Yeah, I just look at the thing that we have. Number one, we need to ask our Congress to do the job that we got them there for. A lot of times Congress has sort of figured out, and this is Republicans and Democrats, they both have done it. They sometimes like to punt to the judiciary, hoping that they get a favorable ruling, And then the nice people in the Senate or the House, they go, well, the court's ruled that way. We really can't do anything. And that's how they do it.
They do. I mean, it's one of those deals that, like you said, they punt and then they point fingers after the ruling doesn't go their way. And it's like, well, see, we tried.
Yes, it's sort of like the best example of this that is fairly recent is having to do when the Dobbs decision came down, which overturned Roe versus Wade. Didn't eliminate abortion. Abortion still happened. Here was the deal, is that Congress, Joe Biden became president, Democrat majorities in the House and the Senate, yet they couldn't figure out how to pass a law to legalize abortion on all states, which they could have done. Congress easily could have passed that. And the reason they didn't is because they really didn't care that much about abortion as a right. The Democrats didn't. You have to think that by the lack of action. They liked it as a political football because it's popular. So the Democrats thought, well, we can just continue winning on this, have lawsuits filed, and instead of Congress doing what Congress is supposed to do, they punted. And that's the deal. So our federal government, if you can't cut some of the federal government, it's just nuts. It's unfortunately, we're not going to get the 1% rule, which I like a whole lot. Is that federal spending only goes up 1% a year. And ultimately, long term, that allows us to get a balanced budget and allows us to pay off the debt. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri. It's John Marsh and Peter Thiel. And John's got some good stuff coming up. That comes up at 6:52 right here on Wake Up Missouri.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
Missouri. John Marsh, Peter Thiel in for Randy and Stephanie. And now, Mr. Marsh. How are you?
Yes, sir. Here, sir.
It's one of the things I want to get to when we get back here in about 10 minutes. Our FICO scores are now going to be affected by different things in a negative way, especially for folks who are younger that are in their 20s and they're just, it's paycheck to paycheck at this point, getting their feet under them, building that career.
This is a great Fox Business News story.
So there's now these apps that are called the buy now pay later apps, like Afterpay and Uplift and Affirm, and there's others, where if you're using that on the reg, it will affect your credit rating
from potentially some time to come.
Yes. So it's and we've all had, I know I have, and I'm guessing probably you, Marsh, have had the same things. Had time in my life where my credit wasn't that great, and I've had to rebuild it. And being in a place where everything is reporting, there can be some really problematic stuff. And there's a lot of people in their 20s who graduated from college who have not been paying student loans for a while. Now they're paying student loans off. And there's a lot of these people who are missing their payments. That's not all that good.
Sticks with you for sure.
Yeah, you do. And now that the government, student loan was like the one loan you had to pay back. You can't file for bankruptcy with it. You have to pay it back. And now that it's being run by the government, the federal government is running our student loan program, it's even more problematic. But if you go in, and I can remember when I was in college a couple of moons ago, I put myself through school. I worked full-time. I went to school full-time.
As did a lot of us.
Yes, and yeah, I took out some student loans, not a lot, when everything was said and done, but I paid them off and went down the line of paying that monthly payment year after year until they were paid off. And now that the federal government's involved with such things, it's really problematic, and there's going to be a lot of people that are professionals who are in the workplace all of a sudden got sticker shock because of how much student loan debt they had. So that's hurting their credit. It's also hurting the credit for being in these buy now, pay later things. I love a taco about as much as anybody. It's Taco Tuesday.
But you don't want to buy it on time. Is that what you're getting at?
It's if you're all of a sudden having to do 3 even monthly payments to enjoy a taco dinner, that's not good. That's not good at all. And these buy now, pay later sites, a lot of them people are using it for food. They're going out with their buddies. They're at a restaurant, bar. They're having a couple of drinks, a nice meal, hanging out with their crew, and all of a sudden now, where are they at? It's called. It's a little problematic because this goes straight to your credit report, and if all of a sudden you have something, I just did something. I changed my financial institution, and I went to every place I had payments, and I changed everything. So my automatic payments would come out. Well, there are 2 of them where it didn't work. And so it didn't work for my car insurance, and it didn't work for my cell phone company.
Those are some major ones.
Yeah. So I had to quickly fix that. I didn't miss anything. It was just, it just didn't go through. I fixed it that day. But still, coming up right after the news, more with your 2 buddies, John Marsh and Peter Thiel's Wake Up Missouri. We're in for Randy and Stephanie.
Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team, and your host, Randy Tobler.
It is Wake Up Missouri. I'm Peter Thiel, your guest host, and his name is... Say your name, John.
John Marsh.
Yeah, John Marsh is here for our friends Randy Tobler.
I couldn't see the
Stephanie
cue
Bill.
Card from where I was sitting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, there you go. So our man going from there. So we've been seeing all these protests against ICE. And one of the arrestees in California turns out to be a professor at Cal State University, Channel Islands. Now, when you think of California universities, there's two. There's the UC system and the state system. The UC system is usually the thing for the smarter kids.
Pretty much.
Cal State is usually the one for, let's just say, less academically rigorous students.
Open enrollment, I think.
It's fine. Well, the picture of this professor, whose name is Jonathan Anthony Caravello, on the New York Post website, I mean, this guy looks like he is completely nuts, completely off his gourd. And so he was out protecting illegal aliens at marijuana farms. Here's the other question I have about this. I thought the thing about legalized weed is that these businesses were making so much money that everyone would be paid well. Well, apparently at these farms in California, they're using a lot of illegal immigrant labor, and some of these are teenagers to cultivate and grow the marijuana.
And that was their contention, wasn't it?
Yes, it's like there's a couple of contentions. And by the way, I have no problem with marijuana being legal. None, 0.0. It's fine. My lone complaint is that we have a tough time with the legal intoxicant that we have, which is alcohol. But the people want it. That's how initiative petition brought it to us here in Missouri. It is what it is. I don't have a problem with it. Fine. The people have spoken. That being said, a lot of the stuff that we were sold is a little bit of poppycock. It's the medical uses are very few and far between. You have glaucoma, or you're somebody that has you're undergoing chemo. Marijuana helps you quite a bit from everything I've heard and everything I understand. I don't have glaucoma, and I don't have, I'm not under chemo at this point in my life. But I know people who have both. They say it's wonderful. Okay, that's great. But part of the thing that we were sold, the bill of goods is that these were good paying jobs. It was going to help farmers and help the community, and it was going to provide these great jobs. And I have a buddy of mine who's a manager of one of the big chains in Missouri. He was a former cop, and he got recruited by the dispensary because, he's a cop, he can carry a gun. So he does a lot of the delivery drives. So he'll go to the farm or wherever they prepare the product, and he picks it up and brings it, over to the pot shop.
And there's a lot of cash business in that.
It's a lot of cash
business,
a lot of stuff like that. So that's sort of been the idea that went through. And part of the thing that we were sold is that illegal marijuana is going to go down. It's just going to keep everything above board, and there's going to be a lot of tax revenue coming to our coffers, right? Those are the promises.
That's been from the get-go. That was the promise, right? Starting with medical marijuana right on to recreational.
And again, I have, and I'm not against it, by the way. That's fine. If you want to smoke weed, that's great. But what we have learned from states that have had legalized marijuana for a long time, California and Colorado in particular, where the amount of illegal marijuana still being sold is over the top. It's there's still a lot of illegal marijuana being sold in those states. I was talking to a police officer in the Springfield area, a buddy of mine. He was telling me that he pulled somebody over. They could smell weed, but the person was obviously not intoxicated and had not been smoking it from how they could detect it. And so they said, "Do you have weed in the car?" He hands them weed. And even though this was not in, quote unquote, a dispensary container saying it came from XYZ dispensary, this guy called his shift commander and said, "Okay, I've got this stuff. It's not labeled coming from a particular dispensary. What do I do with this marijuana?" And he goes, "You return it to the person." So it's and it's kind of tough to sort of figure out where it came from. Mm-hmm. One would think that would be part of the constitutional amendment that gave us legalized marijuana, is that it would have to be in its container. But who am I? I don't know.
I think that was part of it in the medical marijuana era, but now all bets are off with the recreational side of it.
Yeah. So the protesters in California, they had enough when the marijuana farms were being hit for illegal aliens. And that's a big deal. Here's the deal. ICE, they have a certain job. The job is to go and follow the laws having to do with immigration and people who are here illegally. If someone, if you don't like the law, it's called change the law. Democrats and Republicans have talked about for years about reforming our immigration laws, which are very archaic. If you know anyone who's gone through immigration issues, it's an archaic system and it's quite complex.
You end up in the system for years and years, potentially, if you're going the legal route.
Yeah, if you're going the legal route to get in, and I know some people who've legally immigrated to this country, and they're awesome folks who provide a lot of value to our country. These individuals go through the entire process, background check, and all that. It took them months to get a work permit. And a lot of times how this is that they arrive in the country and there's a work permit that's been filed for that person. They wait for that to arrive. Some people, if they immigrate via getting married or something like that, sometimes they're waiting to go to work. The immigrant sometimes is waiting 6 months for approval. In the Biden administration, people without any background check were getting work permits, which was crazy and totally nuts and bonkers.
Yeah, before people were waiting, if not months, years sometimes to get those documents so then they could get into the system and then spend the next 10 years with an immigration attorney trying to become a legal U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and again, doing it legal, I'm all in. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri. My name is Peter Thiel. That's John Marsh. We're in for Stephanie and Randy today. It's the violence against ICE agents must end. This should be really going out. Anyone who does violence to any of our police officers should have the book thrown at them. They should get the maximum amount of time anywhere. Our police officers, ICE people, the FBI, these are people doing very, very difficult jobs. We must protect them. We must protect them to going from there. Now, if you don't like a law, there's the way to change it. I was reading something here, John, in the last probably about 2-3 weeks, and the contention of the article was the lowest form of social change is somebody who's an activist. Because activists usually
That's
are
a valid definition, I think.
They're out protesting, they're out raising Cain, they're really not working in the system to change whatever policy has to go through. And we've seen these activists all over the place, over the last, especially since the October 7th, where Israel got attacked by Hamas and the Palestinians.
BLM before that.
Yeah, we see the activists on street corners holding up the Palestinian flag and saying no to genocide. There's no genocide, of course. There's none at all. And these activists really are not getting anything done. They're not working in the system. They're just virtue signaling, standing on a corner thinking that they have so much going on with their lives.
And wearing their righteous indignation on their sleeve.
Correct. I'm not a big fan of virtue signaling. Go do something good. Don't tell me that you're for something. If you want to support the Palestinians, go to Gaza. I like it. You're listening to Wake Up Missouri. It's John Marsh and Peter Thiel in today, right here on the Zimmer Radio Network.
You're listening to Wake
Missouri is Peter Thiel, John Marsh in for Stephanie Bell and Randy Tobler, who will be back in their seats tomorrow. We're going to do what we can, Marsh and I, to keep everything in its stead. So we're back into the Ukrainian funding business because apparently the Russians are just not going to stop attacking the Ukraine. President Trump says that Melania had a key role in dealing with Putin. It's really a sad thing that they can't get this thing fixed. But, of course, Vladimir Putin has said the same thing over and over again. This goes back decades. Someone asked him once about the breakup of the Soviet Union. What was the worst part about it? He said, well, we lost so many good Russians. So Vladimir Putin looks at all of the states that rolled out of the Soviet Union. He looks at them as being still apart, and that's his goal to get back. And the importance of Ukraine.
Children who have strayed, I think,
Yes.
is one of his phrases he's used.
The Ukraine is very important to Russia for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it is the breadbasket of Europe. They produce a lot of food there. The other thing,
wheat.
Yes, a lot of wheat. The other thing that the Ukraine is famous for has a lot of natural resources, a lot of stuff with these rare earth minerals, which are so important for electricity production, also batteries that are used in electric or hybrid vehicles. These batteries, these elements are also used in a variety of commercial practices. So these rare earth minerals, they're sort of a big deal. And that's a big thing for Russia to have control of that, because primarily now, and I'm hoping the Trump administration is dealing with this, every place where they have found rare earth minerals in the last about 5-6 years has been, all of a sudden the EPA has either slow rolled it or turned down mining. Any type of mining operation, by the way, does environmental damage, quote unquote. But it's having that environmental damage in other places around the world, that's fine to have an electric car or a hybrid vehicle. It's having it in the United States. It's a not in my backyard type thing. It's really important. One of the other problems with these rare earth minerals, most of the facilities internationally that are producing them are either owned by or run by Communist China. They have they essentially have a stranglehold on rare earth minerals. Really a big deal. So if you want to go and pay attention to how to go out and solve these things, that's some of the big issues right there. If Russia's not going to have peace, well, we got to send money to Zelensky and his crew, even though there's just no question with Ukraine, there is going to be a waste of money. There's going to be corruption. There's going to be waste. What we have learned about the former Soviet republics is that nearly every one of them is a very corrupt place. And the reasoning behind it is that to get food during the Soviet era, to have all this stuff work in your advantage, you had to be corrupt because that's how you got everything.
Well, remember the days of the Soviet Union and the pictures that we saw of empty, long food lines and empty bakeries or with one loaf of bread for hundreds of people standing in line.
Yeah, and that was a real problem. So you had a lot of people in the black market, a lot of crooked people trying to get stuff done, and mainly that was survival for a lot of people in these in the Soviet Republic and, quite frankly, in the Russian Federation itself. That has been a real big deal. And it's and I know that if we're sending arms that go to, now they're sending it to NATO. Trump made a deal. We're selling the arms to NATO, and NATO is giving them to the Ukraine. But there's going to be a certain percentage, and I don't know what it is, that percentage that's being sold off. But I don't know what to do here. I don't know if you follow history. You like history, John?
Sure.
What's the bromide about a land war in Europe?
Well, the whole thing about it being unwinnable and in that whole 9 yards.
Yeah, well, the other line that I always say about a land war in Europe is that it always expands. And so far, this has not expanded. It's not expanded for the neighboring countries to get involved. Historically, that has been this has been an unusual case because normally these wars expand. And
that's why the U.S. military was on the border with Eastern Europe and the Fulda Gap and all that for decades.
Yes. So it's just we're dealing with this issue. It's just obvious that Putin is not going to change his ways.
And he points to the Donbass every time they try to get him. He says these are historically Russian speakers and all. It just so happens that all that lithium and titanium and all the rare earth minerals that happen to be in the Ukrainian side, that's the region of Ukraine that they happen to be in.
Yeah, it's Wake Up Missouri. I'm Peter Thiel. That's John Marsh. We're in for Stephanie Bell and Randy Tobler. They return tomorrow right here on Wake Up Missouri. It's I know Trump has been the peace guy, and he's negotiated a lot of peace deals since he became president second time around. It was not that long ago that it was looking like India and Pakistan could begin lobbing nuclear bombs at each other. That would not have been that good.
And in came Donald Trump, and now the Pakistani president even put him up for the Nobel Peace Prize, as did Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that Trump has done a lot of in foreign type of stuff, and he thought, and obviously Trump was wrong on this, which is fully allowable. People are allowed to be wrong. He thought that if they sat down and talked real turkey, that the Russians would want to get out of this because there's been a lot of deaths on both sides. It's a lot of people have died in this war that really hasn't moved anywhere. It's basically in the same place it was when it started. And you would think Russia would want a nice way to get out. But again, I think Putin is just going to do whatever he can to get every one of these, quote unquote, former Soviet Union states to get them back in the fold. And I think that's going to go in. I just don't like the idea that we're paying for, defending the Ukrainians with nothing coming back to us. I'm so happy that the Europeans are paying for this. But again, we have given hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine without a setup. In fact, in many ways, this is turning into another Afghanistan for Russia, where the war is going on and on and on, and they're not getting the Russians are not getting what they want out of it. So,
well, there's that faction out there, too, who have watched this from the get-go and have commented that Putin, it's like, well, is he going to step away from this because this is proven to be unwinnable, take the Donbass and go, and then go back to Soviet Georgia and go back to Moldova and all those smaller countries. Yeah, exactly.
Kazakhstan, though, I think would be very difficult because I think they're run by a crazy warlord dictator type guy. I think that would be a little more difficult. And no, it's not Borat. And so
Belarus is another one they've talked about.
Belarus has said they're going to merge with Russia. They have basically said that, and they have been a part of going with that. But the Baltic states, the Latvia, Estonia, and Serbia.
Then you start getting into the NATO argument there.
Correct. And one of the I read an article. Oh boy, probably about 6 months ago, is that there was the writer of the article was blaming NATO for the war in Ukraine, and it was mainly because there was an agreement. I don't know if it's a gentleman's agreement or what have you, but Putin was told by NATO and by the United States that the Ukraine would never, ever be inside NATO. And all of a sudden, before this even came up, there were states in Europe that were saying we need to have the Ukrainians a part of it. And that was considered an aggressive move by the Russians.
And then that was about the same time that Sweden was admitted to NATO.
Correct.
Which Putin had a problem with as well.
And the Russians have also an issue with Finland. Has Finland joined NATO at this point?
No, I don't know. I'd have to check my roster on that.
Yeah, it's give me 1 second. I got this thing in front of me. It's called a computer.
Consult the Oracle.
That's right. And Finland part of NATO, and I will get that up front. Coming up, more of John Marsh and Peter Thiel's Wake Up Missouri, right here on the Zimmer Radio Network.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
Marsh is with us, Wake Up Missouri. Stephanie Bell and Randy Tobler will be here mañana. Joining us today, we have Chris Estes. He's the county assessor for beautiful Cole County. And welcome to Wake Up Missouri, Chris.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you having me on, you and John both.
Well, it's great. We're dealing now with our parents, and our parents are there's the ability to save money on property tax for our parents, maybe our grandparents. Tell me about the process of making sure they're signed up for it. Do I have to drive mom and pa over to make this thing happen?
I'm not on the front lines of that. That's more the county collector, but I can tell you that you got to be 62 years old. You got to get your information in prior to the end of July this year. 2025 is the base year, so everything will be locked in at what your tax bill is this year, and that'll hold true for 26, 27, and on from there. But you got to remember, you got to file every year, because if you forget a year, they're going to bump your taxes up, and you'll be starting over. There's a way to do it online, is my understanding. Go to the Cole County website, and I'm not exactly sure where it is on the website, but check. You should see something on the front page of it, and that'll get you going. If you have any questions, give Larry Vincent, the county collector, a call.
Chris, there's been a lot of confusion over this. Boone County, they were one of the early counties to put it on the books. There have been counties like Cole County all across the state have kind of, for lack of a better term, dragged their heels.
That's true. A lot of people are really concerned about this. Obviously, the taxpayers, you want to see the freeze, but a lot of taxing entities are really anxious about it because it's going to affect their bottom line. And the only taxes that can increase, to my understanding, are there's a blind pension fund, I think, that can cause your taxes to go up once you've signed up for the senior tax freeze. And I think there's one other one, and I couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head. But other than those two, the amount of your tax bill is supposed to be frozen on what it is for 2025. And that's supposed to carry every year forward. Now, actually, you're probably not going to see any benefit to that until 2027, because with 2025 being your base year, 26 is a non-assessment year, so the values don't change unless there is a change to the property. 27 will be the first reassessment after the tax freeze goes into place. So whatever increase there is for that one, other than the blind pension and the whatever the other tax is, that will be the difference you see. Sorry.
Hey, no problem. It's Chris Estes. He's on Wake Up Missouri. He's the county assessor for Cole County. You got your boys, John Marsh and Peter Thiel. We are in for Randy and Stephanie today. All right. We have to bring Ma and Pa over, and they have to fill out some paperwork. What type of proof do they need to provide to make sure they get the discount on their taxes?
You have to have proof of identification. And you have to have, I believe it's a copy of your tax bill. They want to know, obviously what your parcel is, what property you're talking about, and just verify that that is the person who's signing up for it. And that's basically it. There's really not a whole lot to it.
Chris, can we talk to you about one of Gary Nolan's favorite topics? And Gary has been very consistent over the years on his disdain for the personal property tax. And that's something that comes across your desk every day, everything from farm animals to cars to trailers to jet skis come across there. And I know there's some discussion planned for the Capitol that they're sounding a little more serious on the state level about looking into personal property taxes.
That's absolutely correct. They've actually got hearings scheduled on the 16th of this month, which will be this week. I think that's Thursday maybe. And they'll be talking about personal property tax. There have been quite a few bills that came out. I don't know that any of them still have any impetus to get to the end, but there have been a lot of them out there. A lot of people are concerned about property tax. They feel like they're paying for their vehicles and things like that forever because they bought it and then they pay their sales tax on it. But then the state or the county or whatever keeps charging them to have their vehicle, and they don't think it's fair.
We're talking about property tax. We've got the county assessor of Cole County. He's Chris Estes. And Chris, you're on Wake Up Missouri. Let's talk a little bit about the idea that Missouri being really, when you think about it, we're kind of a high tax state, but they seem to sort of spread it around in a way where it's like a drip, drip, drip. And even though they've been talking about reforming property tax on cars forever, seemingly, I personally don't think that the governor and the legislature have the guts to do it.
I honestly couldn't tell you one way or the other if they do or not. I just know that there's been more talk about it this year than any of the last since I've been in office for 18 years. They have a couple of bills where they reduce the tax over a period of time until it gets down to zero. There's one that just cuts a percentage off and then locks that percentage in after a couple of years. But every year it seems like the legislature talks about it a little more. And I expect at some point something's going to happen. What's going to happen, I can't tell you. If I had a crystal ball, maybe I could.
Talk to us about assessments and values in Cole County. We hear every weekend Beth McGeorge does her real estate show here on the radio and all. And I know it's something by design the assessor has to track day in and day out, don't you?
That's a constant thing with us. And you got a good source there in Beth. She's really good at what she does. I was just looking at some numbers recently, and we all know that housing values have just skyrocketed since COVID, basically. And right after that, the problem is there's not that many houses on the market, so the houses that are out there are going higher and higher. In fact, I just checked a statistic earlier, and as of April of 2024, the previous 12 months, there was a 13% increase in housing values in Cole County. Now, that's not talking about the rest of the state, but you're seeing something that's happening not only in Cole County, but in every other county in Missouri and almost every state in the union because of what happened with the economy, because of people moving out of the bigger cities, wanting something a little smaller, something maybe a little redder than blue, and homes are there's just not a big supply out there. I think you could probably talk to any realtor and they'd probably tell you, there's not near enough out there for what we usually have and what we need. So the values have just been climbing. Now, some good news, I did read that the last 2 months, I think there was a 2% change up, but still not as much as the 12% that we saw in that 12-month period. So they're starting to even out. They're starting to level, and we might see some drop. And that's always a problem when you have values that skyrocket, and then you get to a certain point, and all of a sudden, just like in 2009, the bubble bursts, and the values just plummet. Now, we didn't have a huge increase back in 2007, 8, and 9. We see a great big crash here in Cole County. We were lucky to stay pretty steady. But this time around, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen when the market blows.
No, it's a heck of a deal as we go and look as Cole County Assessor Chris Estes joins us on Wake Up Missouri. Marsh, Thiel in for Randy and Stephanie this morning. I think that property taxes are ultimately seemingly is a necessary evil on our properties, on our homes. It's just when it gets off in my RV that's been sitting in my backyard for 3 years and not going anywhere, just seems so pensive there. So hopefully they get this done, and we'll be on our way.
That would be great. I think everybody would like that. I don't know what the best solution is. And the big thing about taxes is you gotta spend the money responsibly. You can get all the tax money you want, and if you're not spending it wisely, you're wasting it. And that's not free money. Somebody has to earn that money before the government or the schools or whoever gets it gets suspended. That's not free money.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate you working with us all these years while you've been in office. And be out of there September on the bigger and better things, we presume.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
8:24 at 8:24, just coming up. You will be able to enjoy what's going on with the Morning Bell. But no Stephanie Bell, you get Peter Thiel with the Morning Bell. That comes up next, right here on Wake Up Missouri.
You're listening to Wake Up
Stephanie Bell. A couple of good business things. Apple's backing Trump in rare earth minerals push, invests nearly $500 million in a U.S. mine, which is fantastic. It's Dow Jones futures are off 51 points, while NASDAQ futures and S&P futures are up. In crypto, Bitcoin is off about 2% in trading as of today. Ethereum is up 0.14%, and Dogecoin is off just about 2%. And Sheepcoin, I own a lot of Sheepcoin, a lot of Shiba Inu coin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's off just like Bitcoin. It is off about just shy of 2% for the day.
What are they up to now?
Let's see. Bitcoin is trading at $117,519 as of right now. Sheepcoin is really is like 0.00001299 per. I have like millions of shares of Sheepcoin. Sheepcoin never hits like $1. I'm moving to the Bahamas or the Canary Islands or someplace. I'll just cash that out and disappear.
There you go.
Because it'll be a huge deal all the way around. Do you do crypto at all?
No, I don't.
I don't.
I have friends that are very involved.
I don't own a ton of crypto, but I'll on a paycheck I'll throw in a little bit of money. Throw a little bit, and the only ones I buy are Bitcoin and Sheeb.
Sheeb is cool because it's got the picture of the dog on it.
Yes. And so those are my deals. I prefer stocks. Another good news, NVIDIA, which is one of the big AI firms.
Yeah, blasted up yesterday.
Yeah, well, they're going to be selling chips to China and expanding in the old Estados Unidos. I think that's great. And NVIDIA has been one of the real big firms having to do with AI. And the chairman of that company was giving a speech where he says AI is going to create a lot of jobs. My concern about AI is that it's going to make us into a pet of our computer. I don't want to be a computer's pet.
Yeah, you'll be the new jobs that it's generating are the humans who are maintaining the PCs.
Correct. The giant cloud servers. I'm not overly paranoid about AI, but AI is going to take away human jobs. Then the big question comes into, okay, if that happens and human jobs are being replaced at a place where they cannot be retrained to do other things, are we going to be in a place of universal basic income? Not because I like it or not. It's not because I like it. I don't like it at all. But if all of a sudden we have job after job and less people are needed to work because of AI, you look at engineering, accounting, computer programming.
The kiosk in the fast food place.
Correct. Will turn into AI. We're already calling places and making phone calls to businesses, and it's AI that's answering the phone. That's where we're at. And it's only going to become more sophisticated and more involved.
And more undetectable if it's designed that way. Well,
and right now you can go and you look at it. All of a sudden there's a picture up. You can pretty much look and say, yeah, that's AI. It's if you hear a person's voice, you can tell it's AI. Most often.
Boy, we've played around with some of that software here, just with some of our creative services people, and come up with some commercials that sounded exactly like our coworker that weren't.
Yeah, no, you can do a lot of stuff with it. There's no question. But yeah. This is the modern world, everyone. The modern world all the way around, and this is what we have to sort of figure out as long term goes in, but AI is going to be there to go from there. Yes, Drake.
You know, you say that you're worried about us being slaves to our computer. I think that we already are. I mean, we see people who spend 12 hours a day on their phone. We see people who just sit at the computer typing mindless stuff. I mean, I think AI is just going to take a lot of that busy work out, and I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation through AI.
Oh, I think there's going to be innovation. There's no question about that. From engineering projects to medical stuff, I look at potholes, where Missouri's the home of potholes. Well, I'm thinking AI will be able to look at the design and the composition of the tar that's put over it, and will be able to develop a more flexible tar that for longer term will not turn into a pothole 6 months from now. Coming up, I'll tell you what, I have so much stuff to get to right here on the beloved Wake Up Missouri, exclusively right here on the Zimmer Radio Network. No Randy, no Stephanie. You get John Marsh and Peter Thiel as we get ready to talk about all the great stuff going on in our world. Of course, looks like we're back in the funding of the Ukraine. That's back into it. Now, John, you do not buy into crypto, correct?
No, I've looked at it, and I opted to put my investment elsewhere. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. It's Drake, do you do any crypto at all?
Nope.
Yeah, I've done some crypto. It's of course, like most of us, I was a complete moron. I should have bought into Bitcoin right at the beginning, where now if you would have gotten into it early in the game, you're worth millions.
Wasn't there that one story of that pizza driver that got paid in Bitcoin way back in the day when it first started? Now he's like a multimillionaire.
There's a lot of those stories.
How about the story with the guy who lost his password?
Yeah, there's been
that one?
several of those stories. Or the infamous, and I remember that story of the guy who accidentally threw out his hard drive with all the Bitcoin connection to it.
That was a smooth maneuver.
And so he was willing to pay, and I believe had to work with the garbage thing. And this is probably about 3-4 years ago this story came out, where this guy had so much Bitcoin, he would be a billionaire. Okay, if you're smart enough to get into that early, hold on to that hard drive. I would be walking with that hard drive with me constantly until I cashed out. But that's just me.
Well, that was like the early Bitcoiners, too, who got multiple computers just so they could do their mining in the early days.
Yes. And crypto mining, I think, is still a deal. It's I have not dug into the process of, okay, how do you become a crypto miner? How much does that cost? And what's the payout of it? That's a little bit beyond my pay grade. But anytime anyone goes out and they want to invest into whatever product it is, I look at crypto exactly like you would look at a stock into a company or buying into whatever it is as an investment. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of money in investment in baseball cards or comic books.
Yep.
There was a period there, probably about 20 years ago, where baseball card collecting was huge.
Plus baseball memorabilia collecting at that era as well.
Yeah, huge, monstrous. There were people making a lot of money, and then the bottom fell out. And so there were a lot of people who had bought in thinking that it was going to continue to go up and up and up, and all of a sudden, crashed. And that's what happens a lot with this type of investing. The one thing I can say about Bitcoin is that it really wasn't that long ago where Bitcoin was at about $30,000 per coin. And now it's at the 117,000 area. I've seen it 120, may have been higher than that. And okay, that's great. There's a lot of people with a lot of go through, and this is a vehicle that go in. But a lot of times people tell us not to invest in anything we don't know about. Well, I've invested some stock money stuff into AI companies. In fact, one of them I bought into at the beginning of the year. I bought into it because of, it was on a report that Nancy Pelosi had bought a large share into something. And there's a couple of accounts on X that follow Nancy Pelosi's investing career.
And she proved to be quite the cagey investor.
Yeah. She's, I don't know where she gets that information, but yeah, she does. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. So I followed along. I didn't throw the kit and caboodle in, but I bought, Tempest AI Inc. I bought it like $39 a share. I bought $1,000 worth, so not a ton of money. And it's trading right now at like 58.43. But at one point, it hit $90 a share.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been a good time to sell because that would have been tripling my money.
Well, and you have to sometimes step out there. I've told this story before. Back in the days of Desert Storm, my mother was quite the investor. She and both her brothers and all, and she scored big at the beginning of Desert Storm when she bought stock in a medical company. And they turned out to be the sole supplier of nerve gas antidote to the U.S. military. And I remember accusing her at the time of being quite the warmonger and the arms merchant and all because of her purchase. But she did pretty good on that one, as I recall.
Yes.
And they didn't have to use it because there wasn't any nerve gas used on us. But still.
No, I think that, and again, finding those things and finding those little bits. Did you ever do a day trading, John?
When it first went online where it was a cheap deal and it was more entertaining than an investment, yes, briefly.
Yeah, I did some day trading, but there were some of these people, and we all know them, that went and they would like throw every penny they could get their hands on into one stock, wait for it to go up, 40% or whatever they're waiting for, and they would get out. My deal, when I was doing a lot of day trading, and I'm not doing it now, I'm buying for long form because Warren Buffett's my hero on this stuff. What I found is that you go in, and when I did the day trading, my rule was I got out with 25% growth. I would, set it to automatically sell when it got 25% up. Didn't worry about it. Moved on to the next investment. And that worked out really well. And sometimes that 25% would be, in a couple of weeks. Sometimes it'd be 6 months.
Sometimes it'd be that day.
Yeah. When it was really pumping in the late 90s, when the economy, the dot-com bubble was there, that was a big honking deal.
Smart day traders made a lot of money, and the rest of them went by the wayside, didn't they?
They really did. They really went by the wayside, and there were some people that just went out and bet the farm. During the dot-com crisis, I had a guy that I worked with, guy that was getting close to retirement, and for whatever reason, had made a lot of bad choices. So he made the world's worst choice. He cashed out of all of his 401ks and bought Qualcomm stock when it was at its peak. And it went from like $100 and some to like $20. And this guy, most of us jump into this investing stuff when it's really hot at the end. It's always the person that's in there first that does best. And yeah. I would love to tell you I'm a smart enough guy to figure out which ones go through. Mine is by happenstance. I bought some shares in Palantir a year ago, and it's up 400%. I didn't buy a ton of shares. Now I'm kicking myself.
Well, and on the mindset of our Wake Up family in this radio station is a name they hate to hear, but he has to be the king of the day traders when he short sold the English pound. That's George Soros.
Yeah, well, he did it primarily with I think is currency trading. That was like one of his big, huge deals. That's the people that do the Forex trading, and I've sat there and had conversations. That's way over my head. That's beyond my pay grade. Completely off of my pay grade. So I wish I had a better answer for that, but I don't. Coming up at 8:50 right here on Wake Up Missouri with John Marsh and Peter Thiel in for Stephanie and Randy. Today and today only, we've got some leftovers we're going to get to. That's all on the way right here on Wake Up Missouri on the Zimmer Radio Network.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
Wake Up Missouri. No Steph, no Randy. They're back tomorrow. You got John Marsh. I'm Peter Thiel. Drake, the producer, is here. Or so he likes to be called Producer Drake. He'll just come up to you and say, don't call me Drake the producer. I'm Producer Drake, and don't let it go through. It's leftovers. All right, Drake, you had a big one. Producer Drake, what's your leftover?
Yeah, for all of us Mizzou fans, Sam Horn, you might know his name. He played in 2023. He was a backup quarterback. He got injured in 2023 and didn't play in 2024. That's where we saw Drew Pine. He got drafted to the MLB.
Nice.
Pick 525. He was projected to be a top 100 prospect, but a lot of people speculate that the reason he didn't go top 100 is because he might still be playing football. Right now we have that Penn State. Yeah, it was a Penn State backup, Bo Prabula. We paid $1.5 million for him, and those two will be battling for the starting QB position this fall.
Nice. John Marsh, do you have any leftovers for us today?
Well, we saw Tiger shortstop Jackson Lovich had his name called as well. He was taken by the Yankees in the 16th round. But the leftover I had was the Devil of the Ozarks. Now 2 employees at an Arkansas prison where that former law enforcement officer escaped. They haven't been charged, but they've been fined for policy violations and fired. They said the Board of Corrections told state lawmakers that, their violations allowed Grant Harden to be able to escape. He was the guy that put together the phony guard uniform and walked right out of the prison. And there were some fears that he was even roaming around the Springfield, Joplin, Southwest Missouri neck of the woods.
Oh, boy.
Before they caught him.
Influential evangelical pastor and theologian John MacArthur is dead at 86. Died from apparently complications from, being 86 and having pneumonia. And that's a deal. He was a very smart guy, very wise man. So rest in peace. That's one thing that I had on my list. The other thing that I have is they had a recall of bread at Walmart. Check out your Walmart recalls. I like bread from Walmart. I like to save money, and this bread has been recalled. So you want to check that out and see if you picked some of that up. Because it has hazelnuts in it. Now, really? I don't have a problem with hazelnuts, but apparently it was not declared on the thing, and there are some people who have hazelnut allergies.
Nut allergies, for sure.
And so it's but if you're somebody who has really over-the-top food allergies, over-the-top, and there's like a little ingredient, if it gets into bread or something like that, I would tend to think, and I would sort of hope, that you would want to take responsibility and cook for yourself and not hope that the packaging is right, because sometimes it just isn't.
And you see that a lot of times on packaging, that places, that you presume are innocuous, and you read the fine print, says could contain this kind of berry or
tree
nut
nuts.
Allergy. Yeah.
And there's some people who have
gluten.
They have real big issues with all those things. And I get it. It's the convenience of picking up stuff. But if you have severe food allergies, most people in that position should really be making their own stuff. And the good news is, because of appliances, stuff like that, you can make your own bread at home, lickety split, and have the ingredients that you're all comfortable with, and be able to enjoy the wonderful bread.
There you go. Or not end up in the emergency room because of it.
Yeah, that's not, or even worse. There are people that they'll get a big allergy and it does not do well at all for them. And so it's another little stat that came out. Red states, home to many of the top metro areas with the fastest growth. So red states like Missouri, big cities, are doing better, showing faster growth than big cities in liberal states.
Liberal states run off a lot of business.
Yeah, they run off a lot. It's they make stuff not fun to do. High crime. It certainly pushes business away. A lot of issues that go through when you look at economic development and growth and all those things. And we talked about this earlier, and I think it's fantastic. Apple is backing President Trump's rare earth minerals push, invests nearly $500 million in a U.S. mine. And I think that's fantastic. We cannot, it's on this cleaner energy push, which is here, and it's going to be here for some time, and probably for the long haul. The United States cannot lose the rare earth mineral race, and we are. Most of those are owned by the communist Chinese. Not a good thing at all. Not a good thing.
How about before we get out of here, props to the winner of the All-Star Break Home Run Derby, Cal Raleigh of the Mariners, with the best nickname in baseball. The man known to fans like as the Big Dumper.
Yeah, you see, there you go. That's a nickname. Good nicknames, by the way. That seems to be something that's right out the window. You don't hear great nicknames anymore. The Big Dumper. I'm all in. Coming up on this wonderful Zimmer Radio Network station, The Gary Nolan Show. You are listening to the Zimmer Radio Network. Thank you, everybody.